Have you ever wondered how one country can face hundreds of typhoons, colonization, wars, corruption, and poverty, yet still smile, sing, and laugh like nothing can break it? The Philippines is not just a group of islands. It's a living symbol of hope and endurance. From the darkest chapters of history to the most powerful storms of nature, this country has proven something extraordinary. Resilience is written in its soul. Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. The sun rises over turquoise waters and white sandy shores, waves brushing against more than 7,000 islands scattered like emeralds across the Pacific. Fishermen row out in wooden boats. Children run barefoot along the beach. There's laughter, there's life, and there's music. It's a scene of peace, but behind that beauty lies centuries of struggle, courage, and survival. Long before anyone called these islands the Philippines, they were home to ancient communities connected by the sea. The early Filipinos were expert sailors and traders. They built balangay boats that carried them across oceans, linking them with China, Borneo, and the Malay world. Villages known as barangays thrived, ruled by datus and rajas who led with a sense of justice and unity. They had their own writing, their own beliefs, and a culture rooted in respect for nature and community. Then came 1521, a year that would change everything. A fleet of ships, led by Ferdinand Magellan, appeared on the horizon. He came from Spain, carrying a cross and a flag, claiming the islands for a king thousands of miles away. But one Filipino leader stood his ground. His name was Lapu-Lapu, the chieftain of Mactan. When Magellan tried to force his rule upon him, Lapu-Lapu and his warriors fought back. The Battle of Mactan became the first recorded resistance to European colonization in Asia. Magellan was killed, and his invasion failed. Think about that for a second. If you lived back then, would you have fought like Lapu-Lapu did? Would you have risked your life for freedom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what courage means to you. But the fight wasn't over. Decades later, Spain returned with more ships, soldiers, and missionaries. This time, the conquest succeeded. The islands were named Las Islas Filipinas, after King Philip II. For more than 300 years, the Spanish ruled with an iron hand. They built grand churches and forts, introduced Christianity, and changed names, traditions, and identities. The Filipinos were taught to obey, but deep inside, they never forgot who they were. Despite oppression, the Filipino spirit adapted and survived. They found joy in simplicity, laughter in hardship, and unity in faith. The Bahay Kubo, their small nipa hut, became a symbol of that life, built from bamboo and palm, flexible yet strong enough to survive any storm. Communities worked together through bayanihan, lifting houses, rebuilding homes, and helping each other with open hearts. That unity became their silent weapon. As the years passed, the spark of freedom began to grow. In the late 1800s, one man's pen became mightier than the sword. His name was José Rizal, a young doctor and writer who saw the truth behind Spanish rule. Through his novels Nali Mi Tanher and El Filibusterismo, he exposed injustice and awakened a sleeping nation. The Spanish authorities executed him in 1896. Thinking they could silence him. But his death ignited the flames of revolution. Led by figures like Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Aguinaldo, Filipinos took up arms. The Katipunan, a secret society born out of courage, fought for independence. After centuries of silence, the Filipinos found their voice again. By 1898, they had declared freedom. For a brief moment, the sun of liberty rose above the islands. But history wasn't done testing them. That same year, the Spanish-American War broke out. Spain lost, and in the Treaty of Paris, the Philippines was sold to the United States for $20 million. Imagine that. A whole nation, its people, its dreams, sold like property. The Filipinos had fought for freedom, only to find themselves under a new colonizer. Still, they didn't give up. A brutal war erupted between Filipino forces and the Americans, and though outgunned and outnumbered, the resistance continued. Many died, but the dream of independence refused to die. The Americans introduced schools, infrastructure, and democracy, but they also shaped minds to believe that freedom would come only when the Philippines was ready. The people waited, studied, and hoped. Then came World War II. Japan invaded, and the Philippines became one of the main battlegrounds of the Pacific. Manila was bombed into ruins. Families were torn apart. Over 1 million Filipinos died. But through the pain, there were heroes, ordinary people who became soldiers overnight, forming guerrilla groups that resisted the Japanese occupation. They hid in jungles, passed secret messages, and fought for every inch of their homeland. When the war finally ended in 1945, the Philippines lay in ashes. But like the phoenix, it rose again. On July 4, 1946, the country finally gained full independence. There was joy, pride, and hope. But rebuilding wasn't easy. The economy struggled, corruption crept in, and natural disasters never stopped coming. Still, the Filipino spirit endured. They rebuilt cities, planted crops, and filled the air once more with laughter and song. Even when times were hard, they found reasons to smile. Maybe that's what makes the Philippines so different. It's not the absence of struggle, but the presence of hope. Then came one of the darkest chapters in modern history, the martial law era under President Ferdinand Marcos. From 1972 to 1981, fear ruled the streets. Many were imprisoned, tortured, or silenced. Journalists were banned, protests crushed, and truth became dangerous. But as history has shown, you can silence voices, but not the spirit behind them. In 1986, millions of Filipinos gathered on EDSA Avenue in Manila. Men, women, and children stood face to face with tanks, holding nothing but rosaries and flowers. Soldiers joined hands with civilians, priests led prayers in the streets, and music filled the air. It was a revolution without guns, a revolution powered by faith, love, and unity. The dictatorship fell and democracy returned. Now think about that. What makes people so brave that they can face tanks with prayers instead of weapons? Is it faith? Is it desperation? Or is it love for country? Tell me what you think in the comments. As decades passed, new challenges came. The Philippines faced economic hardships, political corruption, and relentless natural disasters. The country lies in the Pacific Ring of Fire and the Typhoon Belt, two of nature's most unpredictable regions. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and over 20 typhoons a year. It's a test of strength almost no other nation endures. In 1991, Mount Pinatubo erupted in one of the largest volcanic explosions of the century, burying towns in ash and displacing millions. But even then, the people rebuilt. Just over 20 years later, in 2013, the world witnessed the fury of Super Typhoon Haiyan, one of the strongest storms ever recorded. Entire cities were wiped out, thousands lost their lives, and the devastation was beyond imagination. Yet, amid the wreckage, stories of kindness and heroism emerged. Neighbors helped each other, families shared what little food they had, and even children sang songs of hope in the ruins. That's what it means to be Filipino. To cry, yes, but also to laugh through tears. To lose everything and still find the strength to give. To believe that tomorrow will somehow be better. Why do you think that is? How can a people so often tested by tragedy still find reasons to smile? Is it faith, culture, or something deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read them. Today, the Philippines is a nation of contrasts. Skyscrapers rise beside crowded slums. Beaches that attract millions of tourists sit not far from villages struggling with poverty. And yet, through it all, the spirit of resilience remains unbroken. Overseas Filipino workers, known as OFWs, leave home for years to support their families. They work as nurses, teachers, engineers, and caregivers around the world. They face homesickness and sacrifice, yet they send their love home in the form of hard-earned money, and even more, pride. Every time you meet a Filipino abroad, you'll notice something. They bring light wherever they go. Whether it's a smile, a song, or a helping hand, they make others feel at home. That's the heart of Filipino resilience. It's not just surviving for themselves, but helping others survive too. Think of Manny Pacquiao, who rose from poverty to become one of the greatest boxers in history. Or Lea Salonga, who conquered Broadway with her voice. Or the thousands of nameless heroes, farmers, nurses, soldiers, who work quietly, without fame or reward, to make life better for others. Their strength comes from family, faith, and the belief that hard work can change destiny. Even in politics and social issues, the new generation is showing a different kind of resilience, digital resilience. Young Filipinos are using technology, art, and social media to fight misinformation, promote truth, and build change. They organize community projects, clean up beaches, support mental health, and speak up for what they believe in. They are writing the next chapter of a nation's story, one that's not just about surviving, but thriving. The Philippines' culture of unity, bayanihan, remains its strongest foundation. When a typhoon hits, you'll see people forming human chains to rescue neighbors. When someone loses a home, entire communities come together to rebuild it. When tragedy strikes, they don't ask who will help me. They ask, who can I help? That's what makes this country truly special. Let's be honest, life in the Philippines isn't easy. The country still battles poverty, corruption, and environmental problems. But what makes it remarkable is how Filipinos face these challenges. They pray, they laugh, they work, they dream, and somehow they always find light in the darkness. Now here's a question for you. Do you think resilience is always a good thing? Because sometimes being too resilient means enduring pain silently instead of demanding change. Do you think Filipinos have become too good at surviving and not focused enough on transforming? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Still, one thing remains true. The Filipino heart is indestructible. Whether in joy or suffering, it beats with kindness, warmth, and courage. You see it in fiestas that go on despite poverty. You hear it in karaoke songs sung with passion even when power goes out. You feel it in the laughter that echoes after every storm. If you're enjoying this story so far, take a second to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder of what real strength looks like. Stories like this deserve to be heard, and your support helps make that possible. As we move into the present, the Philippines stands at a crossroads. Climate change threatens its shores, politics continues to divide, and technology is changing everything. But through all of it, one thing remains. The Filipino never gives up. They dream of a better country, not just for themselves, but for the generations that will follow. Imagine a country that turns pain into music, loss into art, and hardship into humor. That's the Philippines. Even in adversity, you'll find a festival. Even in mourning, you'll find a song. And even in poverty, you'll find generosity. When you walk through the streets of Manila at sunset, the sky glows gold over jeepneys and street vendors. The air hums with life. A child runs past with a basketball, someone sings a pop song on a karaoke mic, and despite the chaos, there's peace. It's messy, noisy, unpredictable, but it's real. It's alive. The story of the Philippines isn't about perfection. It's about perseverance. It's about a people who have learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting up every single time, no matter how hard the fall. So what do you think? What can the world learn from the Filipino people? Is it faith, hope, or just an incredible ability to love even in the face of pain? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. The world needs more stories of hope, kindness, and courage. And this one, the story of the Philippines, is one worth sharing. Because when you look at this nation, you see more than just islands. You see lessons for humanity. You see a people who have faced the worst of history and the wrath of nature, yet continue to stand tall, smiling, unbroken. This is the untold story of the Philippines. A story of faith. A story of unity. A story of endless resilience. The storms will keep coming. The world will keep changing. But the heart of the Filipino will always endure. You can break their homes, shake their land, and test their limits, but you will never break their spirit. This is Asia's most resilient nation. This is the Philippines.